Welcome to another episode of the Magic of Wrestling, interview 126. Now, I've spoke to referees, I've spoke to wrestlers, I've spoke to ring announcers, I've spoke to everything. But Marc, you're the first person in production I've spoke to.
Awesome.
I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited to learn all this stuff because, like I said, I think, was it 13 years or 14 years you've been obviously doing this?
Yeah, almost 14 years now. It was January 2012 that I got my start.
Wow.
Which feels like a lifetime ago.
Did you ever think, obviously, you'd be still doing it like this many years later?
No. I don't know that I could have imagined or pictured it at the time. But honestly, when I started, it was very much like, I'm gonna grab this thing, both hands, run with it, do everything I can to, be a success, do this full time and be the absolute best I can be at it. I mean, if you had told me back then, I would be living in Germany now and I'd be, heading up the video production for WXW, largest company on continental Europe, arguably the largest, if not one of the largest in Europe overall, I would have said you were fucking mad. But, look at me now. Here I am.
There you go. So let's obviously start at the beginning, man. How did you obviously get your foot in the door, obviously, into wrestling?
So, pretty much everyone, I guess. I was a huge wrestling fan. And I was 26 years old and I didn't really think that there was any way I could get in the business at this point, not athletic by any means. So yeah, just didn't think that was ever going to happen. I didn't really worry about that because, it's like, it's not going to happen. And then one day I'm reading Power Slam magazine. And at the end of these have the 3-page rundown of news. It's, and on January 14th, 2012, there's going to be a booking and promoting seminar taking place in Dagenham, on the borders of London and Essex. And I was literally living one tube stop away at the time. And I'm just like, holy shit, this is it. I'm going to get in. I'm going to do this one-day course. A lot of people, when they first get in the business, I was like, I'm going to become the next Vince McMahon. I'm going to do this one-day course and I'm going to change everything. I'm going to be the world's best booker and promoter. I'm going to change the business for the better. And so I went down and I did the course. A couple of my friends come with me because, all of us were massive wrestling fans. And I think maybe the most important thing I learned that day was that as much as I thought I knew, I did not know shit. And how could I? I think the best kind of comparison was you've shopped in supermarkets your whole life, but there's no way you could suddenly go and be the CEO of Tesco's or Sainsbury's. It's just not going to happen. Even if you've worked at a low level, as a cashier or stocking shelves or whatever in a supermarket, there's no way you could suddenly go in and run that whole company. So why is it in wrestling we think that just because we've been wrestling fans our entire lives that we could run a whole company? We could be the booker and promoter and control everything when we have no idea what the hell's going on and how the business really operates. And I remember that moment. I remember looking around the room, and I think there was maybe 20 of us, 25 attended this seminar. And that was the moment a lot of people looked very disappointed, dejected. I don't think they liked hearing this. But to me, I'm just like, okay, so if everything I thought I knew is complete bollocks, how does it really operate? What really happens? Teach me. I want to know this stuff. And so, yeah, I got involved from there and did a couple more seminars. The groups were getting smaller and smaller in the months that followed. And then ended up working on an event called BritWrestFest 2012 at the Coronet Theatre in London, which was basically there was a whole bunch of companies providing one match each. It was for charity, and yeah, it was super cool. And I just was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this my thing. I'm going to do everything I can to make this whole thing work. And yeah, slowly it kind of just picked up and went from there.
And what was that first officer show like? Do you know, obviously being part of that?
Yeah, so it was terrifying in a lot of ways, but it was also just so fucking cool. So we had a really nice production in. I think there was like a decent size, like medium size kind of like rock act who was on either the night before or the night after us. I think it was night after, and they already had like some of their production installed on the stage. So we were allowed to kind of use some of their trussing and a few bits of lights, which really added to it. And there was a whole lot of people in there, and they were really into it. And my only job on the show really was just to tell the sound guy when to like fade music out on entrances. And I was overthinking the hell out of it because, you know, I'm shitting a brick. Like, shit, what if I fade someone off too soon? What if they get hot with me? But yeah, I just remember it just being like so exciting. Just the energy and the atmosphere and being a part of like the team who kind of like helped make that happen, even though realistically I did next to nothing. But like, yeah, it just really excited me and inspired me to want to do more things.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And what was obviously the next obviously big break for you?
Oh, that's a good question. So I didn't really do too many shows for the next few months. And I didn't really know exactly what it was I wanted to do at that point. So I was kind of helping out a little bit with the video department. But then, you know, so like the guys who were behind Brit Wrest Fest were also behind Wrestle Talk TV. Like, obviously, they've got the big YouTube channel now, Wrestle Talk. But at the time, they had a very small YouTube channel, and they had just signed a deal to air on Challenge TV immediately after TNA on Sunday nights, which was huge for us. So I was out of work at the time. And so I kind of like just really threw myself into the wrestling thing. And I was credited as the associate producer on the show, which basically meant I did anything and everything just to make the show happen, from, you know, like putting up the set, carrying stuff, like monitoring a camera and audio if needed. Not that I really knew much about what I was doing with that stuff at that point, like audio to a degree, but not so much the video. And yeah, just doing whatever I could to make that happen. And, you know, we got to shoot interviews with people like Chris Jericho, Bret Hart, Hulk Hogan, Edge, and, you know, all that stuff like actually hit, you know, British TV for the public, which was just, yeah, super cool. And then at the same time, I started shooting for a couple of small companies, IPW UK and what would, I think it was that August, then splinter off to become Rev Pro. We were doing some stuff with NGW, New Generation Wrestling, up in Hull. And yeah, just like doing what I could to try and figure stuff out and like, yeah, just get myself in a position where I was going to be useful. And I think the main thing was there was a guy who had been like the camera operator filming stuff for like 10 years up and down the UK, Phil something, I can't think of his surname, damn. But he basically did like 10 years and then like he decided to take a step back from the business. So there was a big gap there for someone who was going to just look after the filming of events. And I'm like, I knew a little bit about filming. You know, I was a musician like before I got into wrestling. And when I did like a music course at college, there was a unit on video. And so I was like, oh, I know a little bit. And so I just kind of like was like, okay, fuck it, let's figure this out. Let's make this happen. And so, yeah, it kind of like, it was crazy actually, because really I didn't start properly shooting shows till I think it was the June or July of 2012. But by the time the year ended, I had managed to shoot, I believe it was something like 27 shows, which was unheard of, really, for like, you know, someone who was so new to the business and who was a non-wrestler to kind of be that kind of busy at that time.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that was it, and carried on like that for a while. Slowly trying to figure things out, because, like, as I said, like, the guy who was kind of doing this, he had disappeared. There was really no one to teach me, and as well, getting feedback from promoters was absolutely impossible. Like, I would shoot a show for someone, I'd mention, like, okay, like, do you have any feedback? What was good? What was bad? What should I do differently? Like, please tell me. Like, I want to get better at this. I think it was maybe 18 months or so before I got my first bit of feedback from someone. So I very much had to, like, figure stuff out on my own. There's another camera up I was working with then, Jamie. There were times when me and him, we would, like, shoot a show together. Then I would kind of, like, this is a little bit later on, I think, actually, but, like, we would sit down after I cut the show and we would just watch it together, and we would rip the shit out of each other. Like, what the fuck are you filming there? What are you doing black shot? Why is that there? And we slowly tried to figure out, like, how should we shoot this? What are we doing? Because there was no other way we were going to get any other feedback. There's no other way we were going to figure it out. And we're looking, and like, we're really starting to study the likes of WWE and TNA and Ring of Honor, New Japan, and just trying to, figure out all that kind of stuff, and figure out, like, what's good, what's bad, how should things be shot, what can we do to kind of better work as a team together, to make sure, that we're not just shooting the same thing, that we're not missing stuff. And we really had to push ourselves to just get good at this thing. And it took a long while, just because there was no one there to really help us or teach us at that time in the business.
Okay. Yeah, I was speaking obviously to a couple of friends, obviously in wrestling, and one of my friends said, did you do much for What Culture for wrestling?
Yeah, absolutely. So I missed I think it was the first 2, maybe 3 shows. But then we were filming for those guys for probably, I want to say, about a year. It might have been a little bit longer. I can't fully remember. But we were doing, like, regular trips from Dagenham all the way up to Newcastle to film these events, which was awesome. And, those were some great shows, filming just some phenomenal talent from around the world. It was a lot of fun. At the same time, journeys were long, money was terrible. As well, I got pissed off with stuff at times, because it felt like they would hire, like, a couple of camera operators from our guys, but then there was always someone new on a camera up there. And so the first couple of months, it felt like I was having to train up someone different every single show. And it was really starting to do my head in, because I'm like, why isn't it the same guy? Why am I having to teach someone every time? Why can't I take the guy we had last time and help him get better this time? That really drove me nuts. But eventually, we had, like, a core crew of our guys who we'd bring up from London, and so that made things a little bit easier. That was cool. Like, I remember we did the first pay-per-view. I think it was Refuse to Lose. And that was just such, like, it felt like a really special show, a really special event. Like, there was just a vibe in the building that day, and we're kind of talking, and it's like, the only thing we could really kind of equate it to was for, like, the buzz in the building the first time, like, ECW went live on pay-per-view. Like, that was, just super cool. And we did some really great stuff with them, and had a lot of fun on some of those trips. Is there any specific questions about What Culture? I feel like I'm rambling.
If I remember, correct me if I'm wrong. At the time, was it only What Culture obviously were putting the shows out live?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So if I remember rightly, I think What Culture at the time were only putting their shows out live. A lot of people obviously were recording them and putting them out after.
Oh, good question. So I think what we were doing is we were doing tapings every 2 weeks. So I believe it was like we'd usually travel up on the Wednesday, shoot a show on the Wednesday night, and then we'd shoot another show on the Thursday night before driving back. And those would become, like, the weekly loaded episodes, and they weren't going out live. But then it was the more like pay-per-view style shows, which were the ones which were going out live on, I think, Fight TV, which is now Triller. And yeah, I think that was very big because I don't really recall many others like. Actually, no, maybe this was about the time people were starting to go live more regularly. My memory's a little bit hazy. We are talking almost 10 years ago. But yeah, like they were definitely doing live and also then taping stuff for like post-production for these TV style episodes.
Okay, well, I'll ask my friend obviously to see if he knows about stuff like that. But of course, then you go into obviously to WXW, obviously a big promotion. How did this begin for you?
Wow. Okay, we're jumping a lot of years there. So I mean, well, like after I kind of like stopped doing What Culture, like just to kind of like set the scene on everything here. I was running my own production company in London, Firebrand Video, and we were working with a whole bunch of different promotions like IPW UK, Fight Nation, Pro Wrestling Eve, countless others. And we were regularly live streaming stuff, and business was going well. You know, like we had a lot of like good gigs, doing some really good stuff. But then obviously COVID hit. So all of a sudden, like all those shows we had lined up, no more. And at the same time, my wife at the time was working at the. She's now my wife, just to clarify. Still my wife, just to clarify. But at the time, she was working in the aquarium in London. But like after they kind of brought her back to work from furlough, like, oh, we kind of want to drop you down from 5 to 4 days, and we're kind of looking at finances and going like, shit, like there ain't enough like work for me right now. There ain't enough work for her. It's like we could be like, we'll probably survive till Christmas, then we'll be like broke. So we ended up selling all of the equipment, which was horrific because like every like freelancer and small production company was selling their equipment at the time. So you maybe only got like 60% of what it was actually worth selling it on eBay, maybe even less by the time you took off the fees and everything. And we ended up moving in with her parents for a while, who live in the middle of nowhere on the border of Ireland and Northern Ireland. So, you know, coming from like, you know, London, that was a bit of a culture shock. And yeah, at the time we were maybe a little bit in myself, like, I guess we're out of the wrestling business now. And so, you know, we tried doing a few things. We were trying to run like our own e-commerce company and some other stuff, but nothing was really working out. And after about 15 months or so, I suddenly look at like LinkedIn one day and there's a message sitting there from Felix Kohlenberg. And he just said, we're looking for a new head of video over in Germany. Is this something you might be interested in? And I'm just like, oh shit, maybe. And, you know, I speak to the wife about it. And, you know, before I can even finish the sentence, she's like, yes, let's go. Let's do it. Let's go to Germany. It's like, okay, cool. It's like, you know, let me actually like talk to the guys, interview for this position first. And yeah, it's basically, I was like, we were out in Canada for 6 months in Toronto back in 2013. And at the time we did some work with Smash Wrestling, and their video guy, Alan Taylor, another Brit out in Canada, he basically said to Felix at the time, like, I like, do you know Marc? Have you spoken to him? Like, he would totally fit this role. Because, you know, at the time, WXW had no idea who I was. So yeah, like they just took his recommendation, reached out to me. I applied for the role. And then it was March of 22. I made my first trip out to Oberhausen for 16 Carat weekend, just to kind of like, you know, meet the team, see what it's like on their biggest weekend of the year. And yeah, just started from there. And I've been here ever since. So like 3.5 years or more now.
Wow, that's crazy, man. Absolutely crazy. Would you say then for your like thing, it's like right place, right time with everything you've done?
I guess, yeah. I mean, it's funny. Like, I feel like had COVID maybe not happened and I was still running the business in London, I don't know if I maybe would have taken the role. At the same time, maybe would have. I don't know. I suppose it's a thing, you know. But yeah, it was just at the time I needed something because the e-commerce business was failing like crazy. And yeah, I felt like as well, you know, as much as we kind of like, I said, almost like resigned ourselves, been like, oh, we're done with wrestling. We weren't really done with wrestling, not by a long shot. So yeah, I think it's exactly kind of what we needed at the right time. And at the same time, you know, it's exactly what WXW needed at the right time. So yeah, I think it's things just aligning for everyone, I guess.
Absolutely incredible. So obviously I want to talk about the production side and stuff like that. How much planning obviously goes into producing a show?
I mean, it depends. I've worked on events where almost no production and no planning and prep goes into production. I've worked on events where, you know, I think. So I was recently part of like helping put together the Clash of the Comics event, which is airing on Dave on, I think it's 5th of December. And I think we probably did 4 months of planning, maybe more, for that event, just to get everything where it needed to be to like shoot and produce that to like the standards that, you know, UK TV needed to actually air it. So yeah, I know that really doesn't answer your question. But yeah, I mean, you can put too much planning at times, but you need to put in enough. It's kind of like, you need to make sure when you're like wanting to run a show, you've got everything covered. Like you need to know like, how am I lighting the ring? How am I lighting the entrance? How are we doing sound? How are we running the video? How are we getting sound from front of house into video? How are we organizing our personnel so that production runs smoothly and everything, including like the stuff we see on camera between on-air talent, like, you know, the ring announcers, the commentators, the interviewers, how that will run smoothly. And yeah, like it differs, you know, on a smaller show, you're not going to put in quite as much effort. On something big, like, you know, when we run our 16 carat weekends over here, there's a lot more planning, a lot more prep goes into those things just to make sure, you know, you've got all the people, all the kit, and everything's just planned out and organized in such a way so that everything's going to work, or hopefully going to work, because, you know, production, there's something that worked perfectly yesterday, won't work today, and you've no idea why, and there's nothing you can do about it sometimes.
How long does it take like to set up for like a typical like normal show?
It partly depends on the venue, and like with WXW, I'm not so much involved in like the live production, but more just like the video production and the broadcast. But, you know, I'd say like there's probably a couple of days prep goes into, you know, organizing all the kit, all the crew, you know, coordinating with talent what we need, and just communicating everything. And then on the day of the show, typically, you know, our guys will be in at midday. Typically doors is 6, so we'll be setting up probably until about 4 or 5 p.m. Then run some kind of like lighting tests, sound checks, etc. And then yeah, you're ready to do the show, hopefully.
Absolutely. So on your Instagram, one of the most fascinating videos I've got on yours is when you're going 1, 2, 4, 3, 2. Is that like a typical show day for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just calling camera numbers and telling people what I need them to do, telling them when I'm cutting to them, telling them when I'm dissolving to them. And it's funny, like, when I first started like doing, you know, the live events, cutting the live events together, I really didn't know kind of what I was doing. I just had like a vision mixer and I had the inputs and I was just pressing buttons, cutting between stuff, and it was okay. But we did a couple of events with Fight Nation where they brought over David Marquez, who I think a lot of people probably know as one of the interviewers on NWA Power from a few years ago. But, you know, he's been involved in like the production and promotion of like pro wrestling for years. You know, he's behind the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood shows, and as well some like the offshoots they've done in Memphis, Arizona, and those kind of places. But he came over for the weekend, and he was the first person, well, actually really the only person, to sit me down and say like, this is how we direct. This is how we do things properly. This is how we get stuff in the right place at the right time so that we get everything we need from it. It's kind of like right now, you're kind of letting the cameras control you. You need to control the cameras. You're the only person here on this production who sees everything, who sees every angle. So you need to be in control. You can't just let them do what they do and try and cut to them and hope it works, which, I see a lot of people doing these days. I see this from, some of the bigger companies out there across the indies where there's some guy saying he's doing a live edit, but no one's directing, no one's controlling. And, I'm sure these companies at times wonder why they're not getting the best footage. And it's because they're missing stuff like this. And part of it is just, you're going to be sitting there staring at a multi-view of, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cameras, just yelling a number and telling them when you cut into that camera. Just so then the camera operators know as well, because if I want to cut to camera 3, but I don't tell him I'm going to cut to him, he might have the perfect shot. But then because he doesn't know I'm coming to him, he's like, oh, there's a fan cheering over here. I'm going to whip around and do that. And I cut to him just as he whips. And it's like, shit, I just missed the thing I needed over here because he thought that would be cool. And he didn't. And he can't mind read. He can't see everything I see. He's not seeing how everything's cutting together. So it's only when I say, okay, ready camera 3. And he's like, oh, shit, hold this shot. And then when I tell him take 3, he knows he's live. Then when he hears me say, the next camera number, ready camera 1, he's like, okay, he's about to cut off me. Then when he hears me say you take 1, he's like, now relax. Now maybe I'll get this fan that's over here because maybe now this adds something and he's on this camera over here doing something else. Is this making sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. So, it's literally, you sit down and it's just a barrage of, 1, take 1, 2, push, 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 take 2, ready 4, start zooming in now and dissolve 4. Constantly, hours on end. When we do our festival weekends, I'll be doing 6 shows over 3 days, just nothing but that. But yeah, it's a huge help and it's a huge game changer. And as well, some of the camera ups who are already here in WXW when I got here, I don't think they were too keen on it at first. I think they thought that, it was a bit too much. But, and it took a little bit of time, but when they finally got used to the system and really understood the system, wow, did it really change the quality of the output from the shows. And at the time we weren't even live streaming. We were kind of going live to tape and then, I'd have to go back and edit it after, clean stuff up, especially some of the bad cuts where before we had the comm system, they didn't know where I was going. So, I want to come to camera 3 because he's got a great shot, but he's now looking at the fan. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? But just by calling the camera numbers, calling their cuts, they knew exactly where I was, they knew exactly where they were, and it just made the whole thing even smoother, which was so key to us. Maybe a year or so later, starting to then live stream regularly and having really good looking live streams with good clean cuts. And not really missing stuff and having stuff which felt really coherent and worked. It probably sounds crazy if you just hear me. There was a couple of times we were doing Pro Wrestling Eve shows in Bethnal Green at the Resistance Gallery, right? Tiny little venue. Amazing place. At times I hated it, but just the atmosphere in there was phenomenal. But there wasn't enough room inside the building for me to set up the production kit we needed anywhere. So we basically hired a transit or something like that. And I just set the kit up inside the back of the transit. And so then I'm just sitting in the back of this truck saying that. And of course, empty transit, the noise is echoing. There's people walking up and down this alley. And they're just like, what the hell's going on inside that truck? All they hear is 3, take 3, 2, push, 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 take 2, ready 1. Come around, dissolve 1. And they're like, what the fuck is this? It must sound absolutely insane to anyone who can't see the visual and understand what's going on and what's actually what the purpose of all this this weird kind of, I don't know, code I'm yelling is.
I can imagine stuff like that. So on average, is it 4 cameras what, or is it sometimes more?
Yeah, our typical setup is 4 cameras. I mean, we do actually have a 5th, but it's very much just used for the piece to camera for the German commentary team. Because typically at the start of our shows, over the first entrance, we'll throw up like a picture-in-picture, much like the one we're looking at now with me and you, but one will be the German team, one will be the English team, as they both introduce the show. And it's a good way of kind of like, showing people that there's two languages happening. This is like a very together production because, picture-in-picture stuff isn't stuff a lot of indies are doing. But also, the guys who are watching our German live stream, they just hear the Germans, but they can see the English. The guys in our English live streams, they just hear the English, but they can see the Germans as well. And I think it just kind of adds to that. But yeah, we need a camera just for that shot. So yeah, we got a camera whose only purpose is get the German commentary team's piece to camera. It's typically German. Sometimes it's English. But yeah. And then the other one will just be one of our handheld cameras running in, just, again, organizing people, getting them in position to get the right shot at the right time and really make that kind of work.
Yeah, that makes sense. So apart, obviously, from calling numbers out and stuff like that, what else is obviously going on, obviously, in production for you?
In what way?
So, like, have you got, like, people, obviously, in your ears, like, telling you what to do and stuff like that? Anything else, like, apart from obviously calling the numbers out?
Yeah, so we've got our live event producer Bori, and she's let me know when things like entrances are happening, and she's counting me down for like when we're going to start playing like video packages on the LED wall, so then I can make sure that I cut to the package on the live stream at work as well at the right time. And at the same time, little things like, when the referee is presenting the championship ahead of a title match, she'll be watching the feed which we're cutting together, and she'll tell the referee how long to hold the title up so that, she knows that we've got the shot and everything looks good. And, we might have some communication over a couple of things during the course of an event. But yeah, it's not quite like a WWE where there might be someone that call in every move and every spot that's coming up to us. But yeah, usually it's kind of me leading the charge with help from Bori as and when we need it to gel the live and video productions together. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, stuff like that. So, what's the process after a wrestling show for you?
Pack everything away and get a beer.
I love it.
I sometimes see if I can get one of the crew who's not busy during the main event to bring me a beer just as the main event starts, but I haven't got a great success rate with that. But yeah, typically it's so with WXW we produce our backstage vlog. So I'll speak to the videographer who's been shooting and producing that and get all the clips I need to kind of put that together, and then I'll put together the vlog. Whilst I may be waiting for things like subtitles and translations to get done, I'll then take the cut of the show, maybe fix any major problems that we had. Anything that's I really missed something, or I cut to a weird camera at a weird time that made no sense, or anything I fuck up, because fuck ups always happen. You're never going to have a perfect show. But yeah, and mainly the bigger ones. I don't stress much about the smaller fuck ups, because I feel like even if I did it in post, there would still be a bunch of small fuck ups. When we're talking about a 3-hour event and you're trying to get it turned around quickly, you're going to make mistakes in there somewhere. But yeah, I'll usually remix the audio. Again, we'll get subtitles and translations on the promo packages, so that, the German-speaking audience understand what all the English-speaking guy said, and the English-speaking audience understand what all the German-speaking guy said. And then we'll re-upload all that to our YouTube channel for our members to watch. And yeah, we'll process the vlog, and then prep starts usually immediately for whatever the next show on the calendar is going to be.
Wow, Jesus Christ! So do you get time to yourself then, man? Or you were just always constantly busy?
Pretty much always constantly busy. Last weekend was, I believe, my last weekend off of the year. So I've got, I think, at least one event every weekend for the rest of the year. Not all WXW. We're also working, it's my wife and I, we also work with GMC, which is the MMA promotion which is also like the guys who like house our wrestling academy over here. So like we work with them, and so we run a lot of their events as well. Again, doing video production and live stream, which is very different to wrestling.
Okay. So a few obviously questions, obviously apart from that. Now you may have obviously saw the interview I did with Simon Hill and stuff like that, and it was quite obviously, very nice. Obviously, what you said to him and stuff like that. Do you want to respond to that?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know. What do I need to say? What can I say? So it's funny when I saw the clip, I remember watching it, and like I remember being at the North Show where he was announcing, and I remember us speaking and everything else because we'd interacted online at some point previously. And then he's talking about like this piece of advice I gave him, and how like big it was and how it stayed with him. I'm sitting there thinking like, what the hell did I say? What did I do? And as it continued, I remembered exactly what it was and what the issue was and how we fixed it. But I to me, it never seemed like such a huge deal. Because I don't know, to me, it seemed like something small, something obvious, help the guy out. Clearly he's got talent, but with this one little fix, I'm like, this will really help him just like take what he's doing up a level. But the fact that stayed with him, and that show I think was like 3 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 2 years ago, I can't quite remember. But even 2 or 3 years ago, and like he still remembers that, and he's still telling that story. Like that's awesome. And I'm so glad I was able to help him in that moment. I'm so glad that it stayed with him, and that he's telling the story and putting me over. And it's just again, like something to me, it's just like, oh, it's just a small little thing. Just help the guy out, like try and help him be the best he can be, and then he's saying nice things like that on a podcast about me. It's awesome. So yeah, thank you, Simon. I appreciate it, fella.
Absolutely. The reason I was bring that up in particular is what's the best piece of advice you've been given?
Ooh, that's a very, very good question. I don't know. I don't actually know. I have to have a think about that and come back to it.
Okay. Wrestle Wellbeing's obviously put a question in, and he says, have you ever experienced any problems related to mental health when it comes to shooting a wrestling show?
Myself personally, no. I know there was a show recently where one of my crew members, I'm trying to think, what's the best way of putting this? Because, I don't want to reveal too much, but at the same time, I do think it's kind of like, it could be important to share. So, yeah. So one of my crew members was, right before we're about to go, was having a bit of a panic attack or something similar. And, I was trying to help them. I was trying to help them. I was offering help, but at the same time, it's like, I don't want to be overbearing and add to the problems. And really, for that person, I know they said to me that what really helped them actually was when the show started, because it helped them to kind of like, it gave them something to focus on. And that kind of helped them, get over the issues they were having and really calm down in that moment. I don't know if that's good advice for other people. All I can tell you is that, for this individual, it worked in that moment. Yeah. I really don't know if there's a better answer for that. I'm sorry. As I said, it's not something I've personally really experienced, and I don't really know enough about what this individual went through to really be able to talk about it in a more meaningful way. Yeah, sorry.
No, that's absolutely fine. I mean, you ask the questions and stuff like that. Obviously, you answer in the best way you can. For you, what's the most rewarding thing when it comes obviously to your job in wrestling?
Ooh. I mean, it's tough. It's tough to answer because as much as I love directing and producing shows, I love working on these live events. I love live streaming and stuff. Like really, there's nothing better than being in the building. And I guess maybe the most important part is just knowing that we've shot something really well and we've really captured the energy and the feel and the atmosphere for the people at home, because like, as much as I love like producing and shooting events, there's nothing like being there live, there's nothing as exciting, especially when something just like it really works, when the crowd, like, when they lose their minds, when they pop for something huge. I think about when Shigehiro Irie won 16 karat gold. He's got a very special relationship with the WXW fans, and he'd been on quite a journey. He'd entered the tournament multiple times. He'd never won it before. And the year he won it was also for the unified title. And, his journey, his struggle, that moment he won, and the outpouring of emotion from the audience was incredible. There's people crying literal tears of joy at his win. And I remember us cutting that and just getting so many great crowd shots and really showing the people at home how special this moment was. And it's like, my aim is always to try and make the people who can't be in the building with us feel like they kind of are there. And like, we'll never 100% do that, but it's like, I really want to capture that drama, that energy, that emotion. And those moments when like, you really feel that energy coming through the screen, that's when it feels really fucking magic. That's when it feels really exciting to me. That's when I'm kind of like the happiest with stuff,
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good answer and stuff like that. So I asked you this question obviously before we came on the air, and now I want you to elaborate on it and stuff like that. Do you think some promotions, you don't have to name them, big or small, overproduce some things?
Yes, absolutely. And I know we had a really good little chat about this before. I can't remember exactly what I said, because there's something there I was like, oh, that was a really good point. Well done, Mark. But yeah, I definitely think stuff can be overproduced. I think there's times when we look at the fact that, we might have like 3, 4, 5 cameras, and we got, a moment that we're planning, and we set things up in such a way that it doesn't feel authentic. I feel that some of the bigger leagues are definitely guilty of this. And it's kind of like, just because you've got all these cameras and all these angles and all this tech and all these possibilities, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And to me, it's almost like, if this same moment were to be recreated in a way with like the UFC or, MMA, for example, if this was something which was to happen there, how would they shoot it? How would they produce this? How would they capture this? If this was real and it wasn't something we had planned out, how would we shoot and react to this moment? And I think that's super key and super important, because at the end of the day, wrestling is a simulated sport. We all know it's a work. We all know that, we've got these crazy over-the-top characters. But at the end of the day, we're trying to manipulate emotions. We're trying to draw people in. We're trying them to forget that it's fake just for a moment, and just to buy in that maybe, just maybe, these guys really are who they say they are. And the issues between them that they say are real, maybe they are real. Maybe they really don't like each other. Maybe this thing that happened, which they've had a misunderstanding over, they really had a misunderstanding over, and now it's really manifesting itself in this kind of tension between the two. Draw the crowd into that and try and help them to feel that this is more authentic, more legitimate. And I do think that there's a temptation at times to be like, oh, we're just going to like throw all the cameras, all the lighting, throw all this stuff at it, and like, make it the most like beautifully shot and produced thing in the world, whilst forgetting that we're trying to make people just for a minute think maybe this could be real, maybe this could be legit. And not in the way they're like, oh, like they walk out like, oh, that was a real, but in that moment they forget it. They just disconnect with the fact that they know it's working. They just engage. What's the phrase we always use? Christ, it's completely gone out of my head. Suspension of disbelief, right? They're willing to suspend their disbelief and get so invested in it. The same way you do when you actually watch a movie and you get involved in the characters, or, you know, a TV series, and the way you just get so fully invested in this person is really who they say they are. I'm on this journey with them. And I feel like we need to approach everything with that mindset. And actually, like, the perfect comparison's entered my mind, and it's one I've used for years. So I remember, and I think this was like 97, 98, Austin goes into Pillman's house and Pillman has the gun, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it feels very legit, very authentic. Like, I think they had maybe 2, max 3 cameras, and it was shot very much like it was a news report, like an on-location news team gathering, not expecting anything crazy to happen. So when something crazy did happen, you went, what the hell is going on? And, you know, like, people can debate whether, like, the gun was the wrong, the right thing, whatever else. At the end of the day, like, I think a lot of people suspended their disbelief so much in that moment, they thought that Pillman was really going to fucking shoot Austin.
Mm-hmm.
Then we fast forward, and I think I can't remember the exact year, but they recreated it with Triple H and Randy Orton.
With the sledgehammer, I remember that.
Right? And they killed me in one of the first shots. So Trips goes into the house. He sticks his head in the first door on the left. There's a camera inside looking at him. And as he looks around, he just ignores the cameraman and fucking walks on. And I'm like, but if this was real, if this real moment, if he really broke into that man's house, would he just look at the guy, look around the room, like, oh, there's a camera there, and fucking carry on? Or would he be like, where is he? Right? And I think that's the difference. When you look at the Orton Trips one, it's so overproduced. It's so trying to be a movie that it forgets that we're trying to manipulate emotions, get just to bind that maybe just for a minute this could be legitimate. Whereas the Austin Pillman one, it feels authentic, it feels genuine. And I think that's the key thing. Like, you know, like the Trips one, you could throw like 10 cameras at something and make it the most, like, you know, beautiful, cinematic, whatever the hell. Or you can just have a very basic camera setup so that when it happens, it feels real, it feels genuine. And yeah, I think that's really the best example I could think of for that.
I'm actually going to watch that back now, because it is. You made me think now, do you know, with the camera thing, do you know the autumn one?
Yeah, honestly, that first camera killed me. It absolutely killed me. It was, because of course it was like such a great iconic segment to recreate. And like, you know, in my opinion, like, that's when, like, overproducing something really removes you from the moment. It's where you really drop the ball with it, and why you don't need necessarily to have like a million cameras on stuff. Like, it's great if you have them and they can be used in a meaningful way, but, you know, if you're not using them in a meaningful way, it doesn't make sense. It's funny. I always remember, like, years ago, we shot an interview with Fit Finlay, and he basically explained what wrestling psychology is in the most succinct way. It's always stuck with me. And he said, what people call wrestling psychology is just doing the right thing at the right time for the right reason. And to me, like, wrestling video production, or just any video production done well, is just using the right shot at the right time for the right reason. And I think, again, like, it's somewhere like, if you've suddenly got like a million cameras at your disposal, you go, oh, I'm going to use all of them. But, you know, if you look at something like a UFC, or, you know, the big boxing fight nights, or just any other kind of legitimate sport, you'll notice they probably have anywhere from like 20 to 40 cameras on a production, but there's angles and shots they might only come to once during the 3 or 4 hours, because they're using it right time, right place, right reason, rather than being like, oh, I've got this camera, so I'm just going to cut to it. And I think that's, again, like, one of the key things, like, using it in the right way, not just using it because you can.
If I remember rightly, didn't the Brian and the Austin one, were it like 2 cameras they had, if I remember rightly? I'm just trying to think now.
I think it was 2, maybe 3 at most. I feel like I remember. I definitely remember 1 inside the house, 1 outside, but there might have been a 3rd. But again, like, you know, you didn't need a lot of them. because, if you were really going to go and shoot an interview with someone at their house whilst they're injured, would you really take any more cameras than that?
Not really.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, does it? So
this has been an absolute, eye-opener. You know what I mean? I'm so excited. I mean, I'm so happy I've learned so much today. So I feel like more questions may obviously begin to wind down and stuff like that. What advice would you give?
Wind down? I feel like I'm just getting started.
Right, we've been going nearly an hour. What are you on about?
Yeah, bro, I could talk wrestling all goddamn day.
I'll tell you what we'll do then. If we get some more thing, we'll bring you back for a part 2. How's that?
I mean, if the interest is there, absolutely.
Absolutely. So a few more questions obviously begin down, obviously end part 1. What advice would you give to people, obviously, in production, obviously, in wrestling?
Seek out mentors who are better than you. No matter how good you think you are, go and find them, try and learn from them, do whatever it takes to figure it out. Like, I was lucky, I got to work with David Marquez, who, and him really teaching me how to direct was probably the biggest game changer. And it was phenomenal, and that changed everything. At the same time, I was lucky enough to do like 3, maybe 4 tours for Ring of Honor across the UK, working with their guys who were just world class. So, like asking their guys questions, trying to figure stuff out, but also just like learning how they do things just by, having the headset on and listening to all the chatter that's going around, listening to how the director's directing, how he's producing, how he's calling stuff, and then going back and like watching that all back once the show's aired, to be like, this is what's going on here. Here's where I fucked up. This is why I didn't cut to me. This is why he yelled at me here because I really fucked that one up, But yeah, just seeking out these people who know better and who can just help you up your game. I'd also say invest in a good goddamn comm system. It is the biggest game-changing piece of tech you could have. The ability to speak to your operators and have them speak back to you in case there's a problem. But also, as I said, like, just having that isn't enough if you're not going to direct them properly. And I mean, I also hear I'm probably going off on a bit of a tangent here. I hear from some of like the operators I work with at times how on other productions it's like, oh, we have comms, but like there's just like bullshit being like spoken the whole time. Like, it's not like there's focused comms chatter. Like, people are just talking back and forth, bantering, fucking around, and I'm just like, fuck right off. Like, comms chatter should be focused, production based. Like, I always say to my guys, like, and occasionally if I see something one of my guys is like directing or producing elsewhere, I always pick them up on this. I'm like, if your comms channel does not need to be turned on, turn it the fuck off, because that live mic is just adding more noise to everyone else's headsets and making it harder for everyone to hear everyone else. And it's like, we use a Neotech system where you don't have to press any buttons, but like you've got like a boom arm on the mic, and when you pull it down, you talk. When it's up, it's off. And when I see like some of my guys producing stuff where on other productions where the mic's down, I'm like, dude, you need to tell your ops to turn off that fucking microphone, because it's like you're adding so much extra noise that it's bad. Any comms chatter coming through there should be focused. And I'm like, and if someone has a problem, like, oh, but how do I tell you about the problem if the arm's up? I'm like, if you haven't got time or you can't make time to pull the arm down or turn your mic on, then it's not a big enough fucking problem. Like, if it's that big an issue, you need to report it, then you'll find time to turn on that contact, or again, it's putting the arms down or reaching for a belt pack and pressing an on button. You will find a way to, let the director, let the producer know that's going to happen, rather than, having a bunch of guys bantering and bullshitting on comms the whole time when, you need to be focused, you need to be working as a team to capture the event and the wrestling to the highest fucking standards possible.
I think that's a nice little thing to end, stuff like that. So, obviously, you've done so much in your career, man. I mean, what's next, obviously, for you now? Have you got yourself any goals?
No, not really. Genuinely, I don't know what's next. I haven't really thought about it too much, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing here in WXW. You know, I think I've led the team through 6 festival weekends now, which, you know, are some like the craziest, most demanding weekends, but they're so much fun. And yeah, I know, like, I'm happy doing that. I mean, I don't really know what else there is out there for me to do. I mean, obviously, you know, I'd like to, if there was an opportunity to do some stuff with WWE or AEW or TNA, if opportunities like that arose. But yeah, otherwise I don't really have any goals right now, which I know there's a couple of guys who always give me shit for that. It's like, no, have some goals. I'm like, okay, but like, I don't know, like,
I mean, you've done so
I don't
much.
know what I'm aspiring to.
I mean, like I said, you mean you've been obviously up and down the UK. I mean, you're in Germany, you're doing WXW. You obviously you got your own like team. So I mean, what more can you do, man? Do you know when you think about it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if we are taking goals, really, it's not even like personal goals, but it's more about where we can take this production. And you know, it's like, and a lot of this is budget based, which is holding us back, which drives me crazy sometimes because you know I'd love to upgrade. Or the problem is like you could give me like you know €1 million and be like, take this, upgrade everything. I'm like, okay, cool, and I'll still come back to you and be like, I need some more money because you know I love tech, I love production, I love doing new stuff, I love upgrading stuff. So you know, like it doesn't matter how much money you give me, it's always I'm going to eat through that shit. But you know, I'd love to add replays, and I know there's some people doing like some real basic stuff replays. So it's like I'm really pushing like. And I've been pushing for a while. I'd really love for us to have like a full like 4-camera switchable selectable slow-mo replay option. That would just be the coolest thing. Like we do some stuff with slow-mo replays with GMC, with the MMA stuff we do, and it's awesome. But you know, getting the setup we really want is pricey. So you know, that's not happening anytime soon. I'd love to upgrade all our cameras, and they're great, but they're getting a little bit old now. They're not all completely matched. So I'd love to upgrade those. I'd love to add more cameras, you know. One of the things I'd love to do, and I've seen them, I was a bit skeptical at first, but actually watching them do it, I think it looks amazing. But Pro Wrestling Eve added a jib to their setup, and it took them a little time to really figure out how to use it and get the most out of it. But, you know, you look at them using that on some of the most recent shows, and it just looks fucking great. It's like, oh, I'd love to do that. And yeah, you know, just adding more cameras, more positions, making stuff, just doing more with it, adding more microphones, getting more out of the audience so we can hear them more clearly. Yeah, you know, I'd love to do all that stuff. But again, like that's where my goals kind of are. But, you know, that's not even like personal goals. It's just I'd love to do to just keep this production like, you know, at the very top and do more awesome and exciting shit with it.
Absolutely. So one final question, I was supposed to do his outro and stuff like that. Best match obviously produced.
Oh, Jesus Christ. That is tough. I don't know. Yeah, I genuinely don't know if I can answer that. I mean, yeah, like as we said, like I've been doing this 14 years. I probably average something like 50 events a year, and so there's been so many matches, so many moments. Yeah, it's almost impossible to be like this one was my absolute favorite. I mean, just in recent memory, you know, like if we look at the 16 karat finals from like 23, 24, 25, they were all absolutely phenomenal. You know, just incredible storytelling, incredible connection between the wrestlers and the audience, and the audience just being so emotionally invested in the guys they see in the ring. That's what makes it so special. And we recently just did our Pro Wrestling Grand Prix weekend. And the finale of that, the finale of the Kornishka Katja tournament, that was just outstanding between two, you know, like kind of like homegrown guys, Ilya Bloom and Uhura. So, you know, to young guys who are really, really making a name for themselves here in WXW and across Europe. Just telling an incredible story, incredible match, again, incredible emotion and drama in the room. And that's what makes it special, you know? Like, I think a lot of people kind of like, oh, you know, is it all about the action or all about this, that, and the other? It's like, you know, action can be great, but like it can be meaningless if it doesn't have that emotional connection, that response to the crowd, and they're not invested in it. So yeah, I think that's why those moments probably stand out to me more so than anything else in recent memory. But yeah, I think it'll be impossible for me to pick just one match out of however many thousands I've shot, directed, and produced as, oh, this was the best.
When you come back for a part 2, I'll probably ask you the same question.
Yeah, and I'll probably have a very similar response.
Dear Mark, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us, mate. I've absolutely learned so much today from you.
Awesome, yeah, absolute pleasure.
So, do you have anything you'd like to plug?
No. No, I really have nothing to plug. I mean, check out WXW. You know, if you have Trill TV Plus, then our events stream live with English commentary there. You can join our YouTube channel as a member. Our events stream live with German commentary there, but you should go up within 2 or 3 days with English commentary too. So yeah, like get involved. Like WXW is probably like, and a lot of people probably say it's just because it's the one I'm working on now, but like definitely like my favorite wrestling products I have like worked on in my career. I think just the style of the storytelling, the style of the presentation, the style of the wrestling itself, the style of the way the guys interact with the audience is just, it resonates so deeply with me in a way which like no other product kind of has before on all those levels. And yeah, I think it's, if you've never seen it, it's such an exciting product to see, be a part of, and you'll see some incredible guys you've maybe never seen, never heard of before. Yeah, it is so worth checking out. Yeah, check out what we're doing, please.
I think there's some UK talent obviously been over there as well. Iceman, Doug Williams, Robbie Brookside. That's just 3 off the top of my head.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you know, obviously they're guys who are part of the history of WXW, but you know, in more recent memory, you know, we've worked with Michael Oku pretty regularly. Leon Slater's over here, I think, later this month on one of our Hamburg shows. So, you know, there's some phenomenal British talent. You know, Anita Vaughan and Sapphire Reed were out here recently over the Pro Wrestling Grand Prix weekend. They met each other in the finals of that tournament in what was undoubtedly like the greatest women's match in the history of this company. And AV, she was also like the first ever female to hold the shotgun title over here. You know, phenomenal talent who I'm sure a lot of the audience here are familiar with. And again, like so many guys who you don't know yet, but like you'll want to know. And as well, you know, when you look at WWE right now, Gunther and Ilya Dragunov, 2 guys who really made their names here in WXW. Mm-hmm. 2 guys who just signed deals with Developmental, Egg LeBlanc and Mike DeVecchio. Again, like they've been really making names for themselves here the past few years. It's been phenomenal to work with them. And, you know, I'm kind of sad to see them go from here because they've been such like key members of our roster for so long now, but also so excited to see what they do now they're over in Florida and now they're part of NXT. And who knows who the hell's going to be going over there next? Who knows what stars you're going to see who are going to, you know, absolutely define and redefine the landscape of European wrestling. There's some, I said, just some real incredibly exciting talent here that I think people don't know yet, especially in the UK, but like if they did, they would just absolutely fall in love with.
Absolutely. So what we'll do is we'll put all links to WXW obviously in the description of this video so people can go support WXW. The QR code obviously above obviously Mark takes you to obviously your Instagram. People can go support you, mate. How's that?
Sorry?
As I said, people can go support you now, so obviously click on the QR code. That's obviously all that for you sorted.
Yeah, awesome. Appreciate it. Click here.
So we need one final thing for you, mate. Everyone I interview gets to do the outro for this show, so you can say anything you want, you can promote anything you want, and I will end the stream. Marc, take it away.
Oh, Christ, I haven't even thought about this. No, I think I'll just do my usual. Ladies and gents, we're going to fade to black in 3, 2, 1, fade to black.